We're doing a Can-Am Defender build at the moment here at Aussie Power Sports headquarters. So far we've just done the winch, all installed and put back together. Now we're going to move on to some protection. So we've got the big heavy duty scrub bar and side rail, as well as rock sliders kit we're going to do to protect all the front and side of your buggy and its plastics. We're also going to be doing feet guards, which sit behind the front tyres and stop any sticks or protrusions coming through the firewall and getting inside the cab. As well as that, we'll be doing the underbody skid plate and CV guards. Some of these kits use the same factory mounting locations. So we might do part of one kit, then move to a next kit, and then back to the first kit again to try and minimise the amount of putting things on and off multiple times to get everything to fit together. All right, let's get into it. All right, so we're going to mount the front scrub bar first. It mounts using these two factory bolt locations here, so we need to remove those first. To get to these, it makes it much easier if we remove this plastic guard on the inside here. There's two plastic clips on the outside and a bolt just on the inside here behind this grill. It's the same on both sides. It just allows you to get your hands in to get to the nuts on the back of these bolts. It all gets reinstalled once you're done in that area, but just makes life much easier than trying to squeeze your hand through and getting cut. And then there's two factory bolts down in the lower part of their front bumper that's there now. We remove those and we'll reuse those mounting locations with our kit. So that's what we'll do first. We'll remove all that and then we'll be able to put our scrub bar on. Okay, now we've got the retaining clips and bolts removed from the plastic cover that sits above the winch area here. We're just going to fold that down out of the way, which will give us access to get into the nuts behind these two bolts here. The reason we need to do this is it's a box section frame behind the grill here, which are actually nuts and bolts. So you need to be able to get a tool onto the back to hold the nut to pull the bolt out, and you can't do that with that plastic protector in the way. So we'll just fold that out of the way and then we'll be able to start removing the bolts that we need to. Now it doesn't have to be fully removed, it'll just be flattened out, spun 90 degrees and pushed towards the back. That lets you access up into the back of this frame here where you need to get to. So you'll need a deep 13mm socket. Because it's a box frame, it's just got a hole drilled in line with the bolt, so you can't get a spanner into it. And the length of the bolt means you need a deep socket. The next two you need to remove are the two big ones into the frame down the bottom. It's a 13mm again, but they go into a threaded hole, a welded nut. So it should just be a socket from the outside. So what comes next is actually getting our scrub bar up into position. It can be done with one person, but much easier with two, because it's a one-piece bar. There's a bit of weight to it, and then trying to line things up to get it bolted in, much easier with two, so we'll do that now. So we've got the bull bar sitting on the ground in front. What we're going to do is do up the top two mounts, which are behind this rail here, and line up with the factory box section. So the bolt and washer will go through the mounting lugs on the back. You've then got two spacers. They'll go onto the bolt behind the bull bar mounting lug. The reason for the spacers is in the 2020 and newer models, the grills have protrusions and you don't want the feet to squash your grill. So that just spaces the feet on the mounts of the bull bar out off the plastic grill. So we'll get those top two in and just the nuts on them just started to hold it there, and then we can line up and get the other four in the bottom in. For the nuts on the back of those bolts, we're going to reuse the factory nuts as they've got the built-in washer flange and they fit in the box section. So that's the top two bolted up just till the nylock starts to bite, which will give us the wiggle room to line all the other four bolt holes up. We'll tighten it up a bit more after that, but we'll still leave it a little loose to mount the side rails and everything else. Okay, so we've got the bull bar hanging loosely from the top two mounts. So we'll put in the bottom two and the side two. And we'll tighten it up a little bit, but not tight. You still want a bit of wiggle room to help line up the rest of the kit to the machine. So that's the bull bar mounted in its 6 locations. But as I said, we leave it loose, which will give us more easier installation as we go down the track with the side rails and rock sliders and everything else. So we'll move on to the next step. So the lower mount for the fender protection or side rails and for part of the feet guards mount to a chassis rail in behind this wheel. 2020 and newer Defenders have added a big piece of plastic here, which needs to just be cut out of the way to access the chassis rail for where the mounts are. So we'll show you how to do that. So as you can see, I've taken the front wheel off to give easier access to get into this part. It doesn't have to come off. You don't have to jack it up, but it does make life easier. Yeah, Can-Am changed the shape of this plastic here between 2019 and 2020. The chassis rail behind it's in the same location, but there's a factory groove in the plastic that you just need to cut around, which will give you access to get to that chassis rail. The best way that we think to do this is with a sharp Stanley knife and apply some heat to it beforehand to let it slide through the plastic a bit easier. We'll zoom in so you can have a look at. So this is the groove here that needs to be cut out of the plastic, which will give access to the chassis rail hidden behind there. So all you gotta do is just follow that groove, which makes it a lot easier than just cutting blindly. Okay, so we've cut our plastic out, which for mounting the scrub bar kit is all you need to do. Just remove that piece of plastic around the factory groove, which allows you to get your bracket for the front side rails to mount, which just pushes through the chassis frame, box frame. You have these nuts to go on the back, which will allow the mounting point for the front side rail to bolt onto. If you're doing the full kit, including rock sliders, you don't use this bracket, as the same bracket is on the front of the rock slider. So it'll end up in basically the same place and give you the same mount for the front side rails. Since we're doing feet guards on this machine, we need to remove more plastic, so we're going to do that as its own fitment. But yeah, if you're just doing the scrub bar, that's all the plastic you need to cut out. to then mount either one of your two options, your rock sliders if you have them, or your bracket if you're not using rock sliders. So we're going to install the feet guards. We're starting on the driver's side. So they're going to roughly sit there-ish and protect the driver and the other side, the passenger, from any protrusions or anything getting thrown through the plastic into the cab. First thing to do is to remove this lower piece of plastic covering, which is 1, 2, 3 Torx head screws and 2 rivets which need to be drilled out with a 5mm drill bit. So we'll get onto that. And drilling out the 2 rivets. Next step is to remove these 3 Torx bits. The lower 2 are a nut and bolt through. So you need a spanner on the inside. So that's roughly the positioning of the feet guard. We have replacement bolts to go into these 3 and big bolts to go through the box frame down the bottom here. So we'll install those now. Let's see on each side. There is a location on the inner here that you need to drill through the firewall. You can see it's a square hole up here. So you drill a hole through that, and you have a self locating lined head bolt to go through, and you put a nut and big washer on the other side. So we'll do that. So just going to go and tighten up the bolts we do have to make sure this is in its right location. Then we'll drill that top hole and put the last retaining bolt for this side in. Okay, so we've got this tightened all up, which has got everything nice and tight. This upper hole here, we're going to put an extra retaining bolt through that. It's a 6mm bolt, so we're going to drill it out with a 6mm bit. It's just through plastic, so put our blind bolt in. And then just a washer and nut on the inside. Okay, and there you have it. That's the driver's feet guard installed. The passenger side, well, a little bit different because slightly different plastic shape. Same basic idea. Remove your lower plastic. You'll utilise the holes in the chassis rail for the lower, the outer fender bolts for the outside. You do drill another hole in a similar location. It's not exactly the same. So if you're just doing feet guards, that's all you need to do. If you're doing feet guards in a skid plate, the feet guards need to go on first. The skid plate comes up and covers the front of the feet guards. So yeah, you won't get the feet guards in if you've already put the skid plate on. With the scrub bar, we'll remove these 2 bolts because we use those same holes. So we'll just pull those out, put the scrub bar, rock slider in, and then rebolt it exactly how it is, just with another bracket there as well. So yeah, we'll get cracking and do the other side. It's time to remove the lower panel for the feet guards. On the driver's side, once you do that, it fairly well just falls out, but over on this passenger side, just because of the shape of the plastic, there's a little bit that gets caught on the lower A-arm here. So you just need to sort of flex it and bend it to get it out of the way. So we'll do that. So, for the extra bolt that we drill through here, like on the driver's side, on this passenger side it's a bit harder to get to from the inside. So we'll show you a way to make that install easier, to get your hand in there to get the nut started once you drill it. And around. Still recording. So this one piece dash, to get enough room to get your hand up to the firewall, there's two plastic screws here, need to be pulled out, a bolt at the back and another bolt up under here. Once they've been removed, let you just get the dash panel away, then you can get your hand up to where the hole will be drilled to put the nut on. So it just makes life a whole lot easier. Right, now we'll be drilling to put the last retaining bolt for the feet guards in. So we've loosened the dash off on the passenger side, so we've got access to this skin. So we just got to drill a 6mm through for the 6mm bolt, using a small drill to start with. So a ratchet spanner is going to be the easiest way to do this. You could do it with a open spanner if that's what you've got. You won't get a socket and ratchet in there. Once you've got the bull bar on, the next step is to mount the lower rock sliders. First step of that is mounting the rear bracket. So in here is the piece of chassis we're going to mount the rear bracket to. It's a C channel type chassis. You have a mirror pair of brackets. This is the driver's side. You can tell by placing it against the chassis and keeping it square. This part will be square because the chassis is on an angle. We're going to mount that through the C channel with two bolts, with washers and a captive nut that'll sit in the channel on the back side to tighten it up. So a ratchet spanner is probably the best tool for doing these bolts up, as you can't get a socket or rattle gun in there with the plastic in the way without removing the plastic. We've got the bull bar mounted. You've cut your plastic if you haven't got feet guards. And now, if you're only fitting the scrub bull bar and front part of the wheel arch protection or side rails, this is the bracket that will go through the chassis rail here. If you have the full scrub bar kit with the lower rock sliders, you don't use this bracket out of the kit, as the same bracket is actually already welded to the lower rock sliders. So we've got our rear rock slider bracket on, which it slides in first. All right, now we've got the rear loosely mounted of the rock slider. We'll get the front. So these two holes through the feet guard through the chassis. And the second one loosely installed just till the Nylox bite. So it'll hold it, but we've still got adjustment wiggle room in it. So the upper mount for the side rails is going to mount here on the machine. To do that, there's a dual insert nut. So position it like so, using one of the three hands that you have. So as with anything, we leave it semi-loose, so we have our adjustment room to go to the next stage. The mount, while it's loose, you need to get the mounting bolt through from behind. Just a blind head bolt with the square to hold it in location. Once you get that in, you can tighten this back up to have enough movement for adjustment, but not completely sloppy. So there we go, we've still got movement. All right, we're going to put the side rail on. So now we've got our bracket with bolt in, we're going to put our side rail on. The bottom needs to slide in over its bracket first. Rotate him up to get that bolt through. Then you just got 2 washers and a dome nut. So with the lower part, you need to get the bolt into the upper mounting hole first. Slide the whole kit and caboodle without knocking the bolt out of the hole. And then get it over into position. You'll be able to see from below. Push it through the hole in the bottom rock slider. And you should be able to get your washer and nut. Started like so. And then the side one. Washer and nut mounted. So we leave all that loose. All right, the upper mount, the lower mount, so now it's time for the front mount to the bull bar. It's just again, bolts and washers and nuts. So we leave everything not tightened all the way up to start with. So that's the driver's side all loosely together. You would repeat that for the passenger side and then go and tighten everything up bit by bit so it all pulls in nice and square and strong. It's our scrub bar kit with side rails all installed loose. Now would normally be the time you go and tighten everything up and get it all nice and bolted together and strong. But I have made an error here. If I was doing this again, I'd put the fair lead on the bull bar before bolting it to the vehicle. It is going to be able to be done in situ, but obviously it'd be much easier without having to try and jam your hands down here. So before we tighten it up, we're going to put the fair lead on, and then we'll tighten everything up and show you the finished product. Now we have it, the completed scrub bar install on a Can-Am Defender, the front bumper, side rail and fender protection, as well as the lower rock sliders, as well as aluminium feet guards, which adds quite a lot of protection to both the unit and potentially to the occupants of the machine. If you're interested in this Can-Am Defender scrub bar, feet guards, or any other accessories for any other ATV and UTV, hit up the team here at Aussie Power Sports or jump on the website at www.aussiepowersports.com.au.